And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me, I have my good brother here in the temple, the one and only Flame Scion.
Hey there, I am still ill from last week, so you're gonna need to expect a lot of coughing today.
Mm-mm. Uh, more coughing than a Team Rocket convention. So, we are back once again after going through the Adventures book, at least on the material that we thought was worth going into detail about. There was a lot of stuff we skimmed, but a lot of it is very much revisiting elements that are in the 5e core books, especially the 2014 5e core books. So I didn't see enough of a reason to revisit that. Of course, we did mention that one of the bigger strengths is setting, because it actually has a setting.
More like it actually has a setting that it cares about, because it's really well built. Unlike, oh yeah, use it and just come up with it yourself.
And whenever I brought up the setting problem, a lot of people try and argue that there's an implied setting, which implied doesn't mean shit, or that it's not meant to have a setting. Which, if it's not meant to have a setting, why do exotic weapons exist? Why are certain names on certain spells? I know the out-of-universe reason. Some of them are nods to early playtest characters. But, again, that's an out-of-universe reason. Also, you end up with awkward questions like, say, why is it that every cleric, regardless of what god they serve, have turn undead?
Pretty much.
Like,
or why is it always that everyone wants the mages but keep getting buffed and no one else?
well, with that, I know why. I know why, and it's for stupid reasons. Because it's less wanting the mages to be buffed and more wanting the marshals to be nerfed because fighters aren't supposed to be powerful or some shit. But that's another matter, not necessarily tied to setting. But the issue is there's nothing wrong with being setting agnostic. My game is setting agnostic, but you can't do both. I know I've mentioned this many times, but this is a problem that's been percolating in the world's most litigious role-playing game for decades now. And what doesn't help is that every time it gets brought up, people try and hand-wave it. And that's not even getting into some of the stuff in the early days, like barbarians must be illiterate, or you must destroy, or if you play one, you must destroy every magic item you've come across.
Pretty much.
Yes, I know it's a nod to Conan's distaste for magic, but you're not playing Conan. And there's plenty of other examples that come to mind of that sort of thing. But for the Grimoire, this is chiefly where the spellcasting side of things is concerned. Now, this is even though the Grimoire book is 322 pages, we are not covering all of the pages because once we get to the actual spell list, a lot of it is the same spells
5e.
from 5e. So I don't see enough of a reason to revisit that part.
But how will I know what does magic missile do?
Shit damage, that's how. So,
Correction. Split shit damage.
mhm. And yes I know if you're dealing with spirits, force damage is going to be useful because it can actually hit, but that's one of those. I hate effects that are utterly useless except for this one particular circumstance that you have no idea of knowing if you're even going to be in. See also Ranger's favorite enemy.
He also rangers everything.
Oh yeah, I think I told you last week. Ranger has been cursed since AD&D First Edition. Oh, Sword World does a good Ranger, but but instead of trying to do a bunch of stuff at once, it just focuses on the I'm an outdoorsman kind of thing.
Right.
But I will note we do have. There's one thing that we didn't have in Adventures that we have here, and that's bookmarks.
Yay.
Let me jump to the back for a bit to see if we have a index. We do
We
not.
do. Oh, we don't?
No. It goes straight into the OGL and then
Oh, yeah. Table of contents.
mhm.
Yeah.
Now on the plus side, the table of contents is hyperlinked. So I guess it evens out. But
It's better than nothing.
mhm. But we're mainly going to be focusing on part 1 and a little bit of part 2. Specifically the first part. Once we get to the actual spell list,
We pretend that it is not there.
yeah. I will admit I do appreciate. There are a couple things I appreciate. In the appendices, having abbreviations, things about the modular system, which we already talked about.
Yeah.
Magical lexicon, listing the spells by class, listing them by schools of magic.
Yeah,
And
because
then
by default they're all in alphabetical order.
mhm. Although, if I'm being honest, even back when 5e first came out, I was never a big fan of the idea of a dedicated spell list for individual classes.
So you prefer something more like what's it called? I remember that Nimble just has 4 schools and almost all the caster classes can access any of them.
More or less. Because you already have the division of magic schools, but a lot of times the school of magic for spells, for in terms of how it interacts with your character, doesn't matter all that much.
Yeah.
And I contrast that with say the Shugenja magic in Legend of the Five Rings, which operates on the five elements, the Book of Five Rings. And there the
Yeah.
element matters a whole lot because if you're taking a Shugenja, there's going to be one element you're good at, one you're bad at, and the rest you're okay at.
Right.
And sometimes that's been the case with Wizard, where you had school specializations, but not enough. But we first start out with the foreword. Dear reader, you hold in your hands the Grimoire, a book dedicated to magic, laws, and its various manifestations. A must-have for any spellcaster. It is divided into 3 major sections. Understanding magic, the rules regarding the in-game use of spells, as well as options to diversify their usage. These options follow the modular system that we saw in Adventurers, as well as ways to play the awakening of characters with spellcasting features or any other supernaturally inclined features like monks or paladins, as well as governing madness, which will be of interest to Psychurge sorcerers in particular, given the vicissitudes they're exposed to. Also, geomagical phenomena, which can alter the intensity of magic and produce extraordinary manifestations, giving leaders many ways to surprise their players and make their lives easier or harder. Magic has rules, but its energies can be unpredictable. Finally, the effects of corruption, these physical and mental degradation caused by the influence of canker, are presented, whether they may concern the minions of canker or those who fight it. Then the spells. And we won't go into detail, but I do like this part here. Many of them include options related to the modular system, offering a range of variants and complications that can be used to accentuate different possible atmospheres. Low fantasy, dark fantasy, epic, etc.
Right.
Then appendices, comprising technical game aids and a magical lexicon, gathering all the key notions related to magic that an acolyte or apprentice may know about. Another appendix is dedicated to the modular system and associated rules, providing you with an overall vision of the available game options so that you can pick among them. You'll also find lists of spells sorted by class, school of magic, and corrupted spells. Spell scrolls are also covered for the use of wizards in particular, but also of any other class.
And then we have on the next page the explanation once more of how the modular system works.
Yep. Now, some of these we already covered, like Action, Awakening. Corruption's a new one. This shows spells and features which cause corruptions, or that can only be used by corrupt beings. Dark, Dragon, Elusive Magic we also covered, where you can't handpick your spells. Grit,
I think the new ones here are the locks.
Yep. So there are 3 tags, and which is what I'm calling the individual components of the modular system until I can come up with a better name. Life Lock, Magic Lock, and Mind Lock. So for the first, Life Lock, spells or spell modifications signaled by a Life Lock can heal grievous injuries and cure diseases in the blink of an eye. By restricting or even removing access to these healing spells or aids, this option makes the game more dangerous. Then we have Magic Lock. Magic Lock requires a large amount of magical energy. As a result, they're usually the first to become unusable in areas of weak magic. The leader determines which spells the Magic Lock applies to this campaign. Thank you for the bits, Wolfie. Hope you enjoy the show.
I think Magic Lock is gonna be perfect for people who try to cast Fireball in a very tight space.
Mm-hmm. And Mind Lock is for spells that greatly facilitate access to information, thus making investigations much easier. If the leader wants the campaign to be focused on intrigue and mystery with no possible shortcuts, they can restrict or even remove access to these spells. This would be a priority for me if I'm running a campaign, because there are certain spells that I've always banned for stepping on the narrative toes. Things like Wish is off the table unless I put a really massive consequence. And things like Scry and Teleport I either restrict or outright ban. Scry I banned because, and same thing, I think I mentioned this last week, but also spells like Knock, because I feel that spell undercuts the presence of a thief.
Yeah.
And
all right.
Teleport I limited with the rule of, unless you're teleporting to specific lay points, you are gambling.
Imagine teleporting yourself inside a wall. That would be horrible.
Oh. There was one instance where somebody tried to do it anyways. He ended up rolling terribly and did teleport to where he wanted to. The problem is he teleported to where he wanted to about 100 feet in the air.
Ouch.
And gravity is undefeated.
Many have fallen to the discoveries of the arch-wizard Newton.
Hmm. Well, we did learn in Mass Effect he is the deadliest son of a bitch in space. But also the image right after the modular system. This is I would blow this up and put this up and frame this if I could.
It's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Fateforge has some really amazing art direction, honestly.
Oh yeah. So first we get into part 1, the laws of magic. Magic is some of the most puzzling and mysterious phenomena on Aeana. Its very substance is a link between all that exists, both material and immaterial. It is the bond and the current that keeps in motion the cycle of souls and the creations of the mind. Magic allows spellcasters to hammer their will into a force that can defy the laws of nature. Being capable of shaping spells, even minor ones like cantrips, this is no ordinary feat. Also, while I'm at it, I'm going to take away the staff for a moment. Since that's getting in the way, I forgot to take that off earlier. I'm used to not having it there. But then we go into using magic and the characteristics of a spell. And this was kind of hinted at before, but if you are using the elusive magic tag, then you cannot choose your known spells yourself. Instead, you pick from them at random, depending on the context and needs of the campaign. The leader may also choose one of the several newly created character spells. Additionally, whenever a character gains a level in a spellcasting class, they earn the corresponding spell slots, but not necessarily new spells. They'll have to discover them during adventures or find a mentor willing to teach them.
Right.
Of course, they go into spell level, which is self-explanatory. Then corrupt spells. Corrupt spells are those whose essence is tied to canker. Many enchantment, necromancy, and transmutation spells bear the descriptor corrupt. Using them imperils both the body and soul of the caster. Certain class features let a character cast normally corrupt spells without suffering the corrupting effects. For this character only, the spell loses its corrupt tag. Two of the most common cases for such an exception are cleric domain spells, which are never corrupt, and spells from the expanded list of warlocks whose patron is not a corrupting entity are not corrupt. For example, a Primeval One's adept suffers no corruption when casting spells from the Primeval One expanded spell list.
That's neat.
Mm-hmm. And we will get into more detail about corruption later. But then we go into known and prepared spells, which if you've been around the block with D&D, this is going to be second nature to you.
Pretty much.
I've always not been the biggest fan of the whole prepare your spells in advance thing. At least in terms of the whole prepare your spells and then you gotta wait 8 hours to do it again. Because I do technically have spell preparation in Legend Edition, but it's not like after you use it, you use up the slot and you have to wait 8 hours to get it back. But then they go into spell slots. The number of spell slots you have, expending one, regaining spell slots, casting a spell at a higher level. You know, these things that are going to be pretty standard. Cantrips are, of course, at-will spells. I've seen people say that this is a incarnation of the at-will powers from 4th edition. If it was shared among all classes instead of just being for casters, I might be able to buy that.
But it's not, so
A lot of things in 5e that people tell me are successors to things in 4e are only such if you only know about 4E um through the hyperbolic narratives,
So basically, never having touching the thing.
or even read the thing. Just took the whole, oh, it's tabletop WoW, um and left it at that. I know
We
Pancreas
did
No Work had
a
said 4E is scary, and I'm like, and I had responded, the most Lovecraft said the most primal fear is fear of the unknown.
pretty much, yeah.
Uh, it's only scary because you had a lot of people for years gaslighting everybody about it. I liken it to how a lot of people used the review by Noah Antweiler about Final Fantasy VIII as proxy to actually talking about 8.
I so fucking despise like midway through the game onwards, like the second half of the game. I despise Squall how he acts.
I understand why he acts the way he does, and there's a part of me that would like to see a retranslation because I'm wondering how much of it was lost in translation. Since,
Yeah,
uh, keep in mind, Ted Woosley sometimes was doing translations by himself, and especially given
I
the
think
fast turnaround time with 8.
I think something similar happened with what was it? That was just translated by like two guys. It was something about trails or something.
I think that was Trails Azure that got translated and now we're gonna get an official one later on.
Yeah, I think it was the first two games, and it was fucking miserable. Like one of the guys almost took his life because it was so much pressure.
Yeah, because the Trails series has been getting a lot of momentum over the last few years. So saying you're going to do a translation of one of the Trails games that didn't come stateside for the longest time, yeah, that's going to put a lot of eyes on you. But
Yeah.
when but getting back on the rails, we have rituals. Certain spells will have the
Oh,
ritual tag, um, and that's essentially the. Now the rules for it aren't changed, but there are a couple side things if you want to use the modular approach. If you want to go with the epic fantasy approach, then you have simple rituals, where the additional casting time for rituals is 10 minutes. If you want the gritty approach, then the complex rituals rule is an option, which has the additional casting time to be 30 minutes.
so it's just the same. Like you cast the spell, it takes more time, but it doesn't take a spell slot.
Uh, you still you you still have to cast it with a spell. You still have to use a spell slot, and in my opinion, this is one thing that I liked when I covered Tales of the Valiant about a year ago. The fact that the spells that you're using spell slots for and the ritual spells are divorced.
Yes, I think that should be used more often, honestly.
So, because if you're doing a ritual, you're already spending on components and the like, as well as time. So I've never seen the point of having you also spend a slot for those.
Yeah, like have I don't know, like a separate list of spells that are just ritual spells,
That's basically what
and those.
Valiant did.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Not only that, but if you are a caster, the rituals that you know is a separate is a is a separate track. So you have your so on the advancement chart, you have your spell slots that you get at each level and the number of rituals that you know at each level.
Oh, neat.
Uh, but so if you cast a spell with the ritual tag as a normal spell, it does cost a spell slot here, or one action plus the duration of the ritual. 10 minutes or 30, depending on the rule variant used. But like I said, when it comes to rituals, I will vastly prefer the approach that Valiant does. Now, when it comes to casting spells, let's see, we do have the thing about casting in armor. You must be proficient with the armor you're wearing to cast a spell. Which I think that works better than back in the day. There was a percentage risk of spell failure if you were casting in armor, which was a
Yeah,
rule
like
nobody used.
yeah, I remember like playing stuff like Neverwinter Nights. That when the moment you equip an armor, like heavy armor, you get the arcane spell failure, like getting
Mhm.
up.
Yeah, and this is one of those things where having a setting would certainly help, because I mean you have it, but in Neverwinter Nights, but the question of why armor is a problem for casting spells is never fully answered. Uh, the answer
Clearly,
usually
because it.
is armor is heavy.
Oh,
So
I thought it was conductive, like how metal is conductive to electricity and all that kind of stuff. So you should target the spell on yourself if you're trying to cast it.
yeah, though they never outright say it. Uh, Again, that whole implying it versus saying it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Uh, I remember when I was running MERP all those years ago, and they actually answered that, which was the fact that uh, the energies of a lot of magic don't get along with metals like iron or steel. It ends up impeding it, which is why it's harder to use magic when you're wearing armor.
Right.
But then of course, we have casting time, which same approach as always. Bonus actions. Honestly, with 5e, I feel like they are way too reliant on bonus actions for mechanics.
Right.
Um, of course, you have reactions. You have the whole longer casting time. You have range is pretty much the way it is normally. Components are the usual trilogy of verbal, somatic, or material. Um, I'm not treading any new ground there, but then we have a few optional rules regarding the power of words, and to answer certain questions that may come up during play and open new possibilities to spellcasters and those who cross paths with them.
All right, like trying to do sneaky shit with whispering a spell and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. With the intrigue tag, we have finishing a sentence with a spell. Certain spellcasters are capable of weaving a spell into their speech. For example, speaking animatedly in Elvish, then finishing their sentence with a spell, thus getting the drop on other people. In game turns, such a subterfuge is the social equivalent of an ambush, allowing the caster to surprise their opponent. Instead of a dexterity stealth check contested by passive wisdom perception of observers, you must make a charisma deception check contested by their passive wisdom insight score. If the spell you are casting includes a somatic or verbal or material component, you have disadvantage on your check. Creatures whose passive wisdom insight score you have surpassed are surprised when you cast the spell.
Neat.
I think it'd be fun to see somebody go in a conversation and find a way to end their sentence with with the name of a spell, for instance.
Yeah, you know what I like a lot? When the skies are raining with fireball and then you blow up their faces.
Oh, I think in that situation, Meteor Swarm might be a better fit. Uh, then there's a couple for Epic, namely recognizing spellcasting. In quiet conditions, someone casting a spell can be heard within 60 feet. Anyone who perceives the chanting and has already been witness to spellcasting will have no doubt that a spell is currently being cast. Which, that is fair. On the other hand, we have whispered spellcasting. In many cases, spellcasters might want to minimize the verbal component of the spell they wish to cast, so as not to alarm their enemies or be caught in the act. If you use this rule, you can try to whisper your spell to avoid detection. This is subjected to the following conditions. 1. Whispering a spell is more demanding than chanting it, meaning you must focus entirely on what you are doing. On this turn, you must forsake your movement, and you cannot take a bonus action, and you cannot use a reaction until the start of your next turn. 2. You have to make an intelligence stealth check, contested by wisdom perception, of creatures within 30 feet of you. Imagine someone whispering fireball in that situation. Oh.
Why is that guy standing so far away from us?
Or, on the other hand, loud and clear. To cast a spell with a verbal component, once must be able to enunciate it distinctly. A spellcaster afflicted with severe tonsillitis might lose their voice or only be able to speak in choked or hoarse tones, thus rendering them unable to cast spells with verbal components, even by whispering them.
So basically, right now, I am a terrible caster.
Mm-hmm. It also might encourage a marshal to do a called shot or like a monk to do a called shot going right for the throat. A punch in the throat or the solar plexus just to keep them from casting.
Yeah.
But we also have a sidebar on the mystery tag of the destruction of material components. All students in Arcana have been faced with this question at least once. What becomes of destroyed material components? These objects seemingly disappear into thin air in a flash of light whose color depends on the nature of the spell. Corrupt spells, for example, destroy their components in a burst of soot-like blackness, leaving little doubt concerning the evil origin of the powers used. The resulting energy then passes from the material plane to the ethereal plane, where it is carried away by the winds that blow through it. It's nice that they do answer that question.
Neat. At least you can now sort of try to discern what kind of spell someone is trying to make from afar.
Yep. See, then they go into duration. I'm not a fan of concentration. I never have been. Especially since spells that use concentration are such a drain on the action economy that action economy is already very limited as is. But then we have maintaining and monitoring spells as a sidebar. If you want to go more gritty, you can use magical environmental perturbations. Spells with area effects that last more than one round can result in perturbations for those area of effect. This applies in particular to spells that create difficult terrain or hinder perception. Sight obscured by flying dust, hearing impaired by a roaring din, etc. To maintain concentration on a spell in such circumstances, you have to succeed on a DC 10 Constitution save. Which I could see that if you're casting Cloud Kill, you'd have to roll con to see if you can keep that concentration while dealing with the awful smell. uh, on the mystery side of things, there's feeling the duration of a spell. Many spells extend over long durations, from 1 hour to more than an entire day. For the spellcaster and their allies, knowing when the spell will end might be of prime importance. For example, an adventurer under the effect of Spider Climb might be hesitant to start exploring a dark pit if the spell only has 2 minutes left. The spell's caster and its recipient can both determine when the spell will end, though on different conditions. The spell's caster retains a connection with their spell as long as they haven't regained the slot used to cast it. They intuitively know how much time is left before the normal end of the spell. On the other hand, the spell's recipient can know how much time is left before the normal end of the spell by succeeding on a DC 15 Arcana check. They have disadvantage on this check if they have been willingly subjected to the spell. If they have been unwillingly subjected to the spell. On a failure, the recipient must finish a long rest before they can attempt the check again. That last sentence there, I'm not so sure about that.
I mean, pretty much most of the spells would have ended by then.
Let's see, but then it goes into targets, along with a sidebar on the intrigue tag of willingness and reasonable actions. The definition of certain spells or effects includes terms like willing creature or reasonable course of action. In some, if not most cases, such stipulations will seem obvious, but in other situations, they may require some thought.
Yeah, like the kind of orders that you can give to someone when they're under command.
Mm-hmm. But they do make clear that willing is not absolute. A creature can be willing towards one effect and unwilling towards another.
Right, they can be willing to the effect and then unwilling to the side effect of it.
Mm-hmm. I do like with Charm, they make clear the condition will certainly make them more inclined to accept the Charmer's propositions, but it doesn't mean the Charmer can lead it by the nose.
Right.
And of course, some enchantments like Suggestion or Dominate Person might influence more strongly. But we also have a thing on areas of effect and an optional rule of cover in areas of effect.
Oh, right. So it doesn't go through walls and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Certain effects, like a fireball's explosion, are described as spreading around corners, in which case the rule is slightly different. To know whether a location is included in such an area of effect, check whether a line connects it to the point of origin. Compared to the standard case, the difference is that the line can bend as long as it doesn't cut through obstacles or leave the area of effect. Normally, half cover and 3/4 cover grant bonuses to dexterity saving throws. However, spells with area of effects can be exceptions. When a spell's description specifies that the area of effect spreads around corners, as is the case with Fireball, half cover and 3/4 cover offer no bonus against the spell's effects.
Right.
When a spell's area of effect only inflicts damage to creatures, as is the case with Lightning Bolt, creatures within the area of effect do not grant cover to each other. Indeed, the creatures present no obstacle to the spell and therefore do not diminish its effects.
Nice.
At leader's discretion, these can apply to effects other than spells, for example, a Dragon's Breath. I like the example they give of this with the area of effect of what I am assuming is a fireball.
That fireball doesn't look anywhere near as bold as it should be.
I feel like this is a demonstration of how it can go around corners.
Yeah.
but we have some very nice illustrations to demonstrate types of areas of effect with cone, cube, cylinder, line, sphere. I like that instead of just showing a cone, cube, or the like, we see kind of it in action with the same spellcaster, just with a different arrangement.
It's just the same one
Mm-hmm.
with more enemies.
Uh, but we also have a thing on the effects of magic on the environment. Certain area of effect spells can affect the environment, particularly those whose duration is not instantaneous. In most cases, the resulting effects are easy to determine, even if they are not expressly detailed in the description. For example, it goes without saying that an incendiary cloud will ignite any flammable objects in its path, or that a wall of ice will freeze most of the liquids present where it's conjured. If you want to be really, if you want to be really asshole, you could probably do something like Cone of Cold and do it right on where the drinks are at the bar. You're probably not going to be
Yeah, because
invited to that bar again.
does it still carry the whole? Most of the elemental effect does not affect if the item is being worn.
Uh, I think that's going to be I think it's going to be a GM's call situation.
Yeah, because in 4E, in 5E, the the rule of the spell itself, I think, says if the items can get burned or frozen or anything like that, if except when they're being worn.
Mm-hmm. That is a that is a possibility. Um, Personally, I think it'd be really funny if somebody got hit with Cone of Cold and the potions that they had on hand got frozen.
So you just break the glass and start licking your healing potion as a popsicle.
Yeah, or what happens when you leave a can of Coke too long in the freezer?
Just blows up.
Yep,
Yeah.
I did that once to ruin somebody's trunk after they messed with one of my books. You know, just dump a 12 pack of Mountain Dew into their trunk in the middle of winter.
I mean, if it is a healing potion,
Hmm.
then it's basically, in quotation marks, a harmless joke because if it blows up, then he gets cut all from the glass, but at the same time, he gets healed because
Hmm.
the potion is now free.
Oh yeah, but we also have a important part when it comes to balancing spells. Be careful not to make the effects of instantaneous spells more powerful than they explicitly are. Keep in mind that most area effects only target creatures and not objects. A fireball spell, for for example, is described as igniting flammable objects in the area that aren't being worn or carried. A
Oh, there
fla-
it is.
Oh, you gotta ruin my fun. A flammable object can be paper, oil, wood, etc. As for aren't being worn or carried, it established that objects cannot be part of a creature's equipment, such as a ranger's map, a wizard's grimoire, or an ogre's club. But does the explosion break fragile objects? Not according to the description, and this becomes even more evident if we compare Fireball to a more powerful version, Delayed Blast Fireball, which does specify that the fire damages objects in the area. Note that the same mention is made for the Shatter spell. If we want to make it possible for to add extra effects to spells, refer to the optional rule on modifying spells later in this chapter. Ah, I know why the whole worn or carried thing is done. Because I guarantee you somebody did something stupid and they lost their dungeon map or lost their supplies because the wizard just had to cast Fireball in a closed space.
Hey, but at least your ration is now cooked.
Unfortunately, your rations are now completely blackened. And
No, no. The culinary experts call it well done.
would you want to have bread that had been toasted so much that it's just black?
Yes,
But
because I have already.
uh, or those infamous moments where somebody tries to make ramen and ends up burning it.
How the fuck do you burn ramen? It's just hot boiling water. That's it.
Yeah, I've seen some people find new and interesting ways to not read the directions. Uh,
Oh, so they just put it on the what's it called? The top part of the oven in English? I don't remember the
the
name.
stove.
The stove.
Um,
Yeah.
then
Well,
ag-
I know someone who once we once told them if they could boil some water so we could have a drink,
mhm,
and they took the thing that you do the electrically,
mhm.
and they took it and then they place it on the stove. So yeah, I can take it. Give me
Yep.
1 second.
Mhm. Uh, while he's doing that, I'll go over the Mark of Magic. Actually, I'll hold off on that. I will note we do still have the usual stuff for saving throws and for attack rolls, as well as combining magical effects. Uh,
Sorry
welcome
about
back. But going into the Mark of Magic, magic leaves a mark. A fireball's
that. Right.
explosion will scorch walls, and an acid air will splash the ground with corrosive droplets. Such details can be important when describing a place where offensive spells have been cast in the past, for example, but also when the adventurers are investigating a location, or, on the contrary, seeking to leave no trace of their presence. Arguably, casting Sleet Storm on an empty living room to snuff out all sources of light in the blink of an eye is not the best option if one wants to avoid attracting attention. Area of Effect
Let's set
spells
all
will
on fire.
Area of Effect spells will also leave marks that are undetectable to the naked eye, but very visible to anyone who knows how to look for them. The more powerful the
Oh,
spell, the more
cool.
persistent the aura will be, in accordance with the following table. So it's based on spell level. So cantrips persist 1 minute. First level, 10 minutes. Second, 1 hour. Third, 8 hours. Fourth, 1 day. Fifth, 3 days. Sixth, 1 week. Seventh, 1 month. Eighth, 3 months. Ninth, 1 year.
Holy shit. I mean, it's like a neat way to replace the guy who forgot to prepare detect magic.
Mm-mm. Uh, and in fact, speaking of that, the most obvious way to look for such impressions is by making use of a detect magic spell. Once the spellcaster has detected a spell's persistent aura, they can attempt an intelligence arcana check to determine its school. The DC is equal to 10 plus the level of the spell cast. If the character succeeds on the roll with a margin of 5 or more, they also identify the spell. Such a roll can be attempted once per aura, and even if the spellcaster casts Detect Magic again. Uh, on the intrigue end of things, we also have the option of willingly failing a save throw. In
Oh
exceptional...
yes, I do want to fail the saving throw of getting incinerated by a fireball.
Mhm. Uh, which, if you're neither incapacitated nor under a domination effect, you can willingly fail the saving throw. Uh, I don't see that rule getting used all that often. But then we have the Schools of Magic. I do like this little eight-way trinket that we have at the bottom here.
Yeah, it's really cool. Is that a dandelion?
I think. Go with eight little leaves. Eight leaves going in the different directions. Clearly meant to represent the eight schools of
Yeah,
magic.
Yeah.
And the schools of magic have no rules of their own, although some rules refer to the schools. And the schools of magic are going to be nothing new, but I do like that each one has their own little symbol here.
Oh yeah, it's really neat. The necromancy one is a heart. It's not a skull, as basically every single thing ever.
Mm-hmm. But then for a optional rule for epic play, you have arcane specialists. By using this rule, the leader will grant a bonus to arcane specialists when they are faced with questions related to their specialization school. An arcane specialist who has given up on the School of Magic gets a +2 capped bonus to their intelligence arcana checks in certain circumstances. This bonus can apply to other skill checks as detailed below. An arcane specialist who has given up on 2 schools of magic gets a +4 bonus.
Oh, so you can like further specialize yourself. That's really neat.
Mm-hmm.
It should then. Sorry, but I think that it should then. Wouldn't this make the. What was it? The mage class that had every single school of magic as its subclass. Wouldn't it be like forced to change to that?
Yeah,
or would it stack?
Let me look up what they had for that class. So I'm digging up adventures in a separate thing. So let's see. Now, when you said mage, I'm assuming you're talking about wizard.
Yes. Sorry, it's just we change it here.
So let's see. Let's see. Spellcasting ability. Casting, spellcasting focus. Da, da, da. Yeah, there was a. There is the arcane specialist subclass for wizard.
Oh, right. So it's just a new subclass.
Mm-hmm. But I think what you're referring to, and this kind of specialist, the two of the, you don't have to have arcane specialist to get the benefit of this rule. Like you don't have to have the subclass. It does bug the hell out of me that an optional rule and a subclass have basically the same name.
Yeah. So then I could take let's say I want the subclass for the School of Evocation, and then I can just drop 2 schools to get the Arcane Specialist bonus.
Yep.
Nice.
Although the subclasses that we have for Wizard, it's not a case where there's a subclass for each school of magic. All of them have kind of been blended together in Arcane Specialist. You're just choosing which one you focus on. And that one did have an optional rule of at 8th level you have to give up 1 school of magic, and then again at 16th.
Right. But this is just from the get-go.
Mm-hmm. But the stuff that you can potentially get for, say, abjuration, you're particularly learned in the nature and fluctuations of the flow of magic. You have read much regarding the influence of dragons on magic, and incidentally on their aptitudes. You're also familiar with the peculiarities of the transitive planes, the ethereal and astral plane. Then conjuration. You have advanced knowledge of planes of existence, portals, and the transitive planes. Divination. You know about prophecies applicable to a religion check, legends related to diviners of renown, and many things regarding the moon eternity and the fate of souls. You're also knowledgeable in astronomy, applicable to nature checks. Then enchantment. You know where your school is ill-considered or banned, applicable to history checks. You know the subtleties of the corruption of the soul, madness, and nightmare. You're adept at spotting an individual manipulated or dominated by the use of magic, applicable to insight checks. And evocation. You have studied the resistance and immunity to elemental damage of many creatures and are aware of potentially dangerous alterations of magic. Illusion. You possess scientific knowledge with a focus on optical illusions, applicable to nature checks, and can see through illusions more easily than others, applicable to investigation checks. Necromancy. You have in-depth knowledge regarding life and death, the undead, and their abilities. You are familiar with the worship of death, applicable to religion checks, and are particularly apt at examining and analyzing bodies, applicable to investigation and medicine checks. And transmutation. You can more easily recognize a corrupted creature, applicable to investigation and perception checks. You have studied a variety of materials, their strengths, their weaknesses. By making a DC 15 tool check, you can determine the statistics of an object. If you get 20 or more on this check, you can spot a weakness or a fault, making your next successful attack against the object a critical hit. I look at these as a way to have it where your knowledge of particular forms of magic bleeds over into knowledge of other subjects.
Really neat. They just need to change the name.
Yeah. Like maybe have one of them be Arcane Savant or something, since you're focusing on one school in particular.
Yeah.
But then we have the Light of Magic. If you use this rule, magical energy will radiate when woven into a spell. At the leader's discretion, this radiance can last as long as the spell's effects, or can be more persistent. Such magical side effects will be intense in areas of strong magic and weak in low magic areas. And we have observers proficient in Arcana can determine the school of a spell by studying the color and aspect of the resulting magic radiance. So essentially, different types of light effects are tells of different schools of magic. That goes a long way into giving the schools of magic more of an identity.
Yeah.
Like for example, abjuration. Many abjuration spells have transparent effects with a slightly luminescent amethyst or aquamarine hue, versus illusion, which has a misty, hazy aspect, or look like a mass of broken, crushed glass producing strange diffractions of light. But this also may lead to some uses and complications. Like
right.
in darkness, watchful enemies will very easily spot the location of a magic user when they cast a spell. Certain strategically minded spellcasters actually use this to create diversions, or improvised lighting. As a bonus action, a spellcaster can grab hold of the spark that came with a spell's casting and make it as durable as the spell itself. Regarding the precise aspect of this light, see the above table. When used in such a fashion, the spell provides as much light as a candle, bright light in a 5-foot radius and dim light for an additional 5 feet. This effect can be used to provide momentary light or visibly mark an opponent targeted by a spell. In the latter case, the target of the mark can prematurely get rid of it by using a reaction or a bonus action and succeeding on a DC 10 Arcana check. Then there's also the matter of subtle spells and psychurges. Psychurges, as well as sorcerers who use subtle spell metamagic options, never produce the light of magic when casting spells. It is very hard to determine when these spellcasters are using magic, even face to face with them. The sorcerer makes a deception check, contested by passive wisdom insight of the witnesses. Observers who fail this contest do not suspect that the sorcerer is currently casting a spell. And the last part here, senses, I also like. Because obviously we have the obvious visual component of magic.
Yeah,
but
or
they also,
hearing it.
But they also bring up how other senses might react, such as things like atmospheric pressure, sound, smell, and touch. Like creatures caught in the area of effect and those close to the spellcaster can feel the harsh tingling of static electricity on their skin, a rush of cold, a sudden warmth, the light touch of leaves, the repulsive sensation of having brushed past the corpse, and many other unpleasant, eerie, or invigorating feelings.
Yeah, it's kind of like what I think it was Detect Good and Evil did. Like, it gives you like a sort of you feel like a smell depending on the nature of something around you.
Yep. But we also have the nature of living magic. Learning magic also means studying its limitations and its most minute of variations. It may escape the caster's control for better or worse, resulting in exceptional effects. Making repeated use of it transforms and possibly taxes the spellcaster. The dangers are even greater in the case of spells that bring back the dead. Of course, unfortunately, magic is not always hostile. It is a tool, a resource, and its users can learn to shape it to adapt to their needs. The keener a spellcaster's knowledge is, the better prepared they will be to handle the risks of their trade. We do have an optional rule about a capped bonus. When you have a capped bonus, you directly add said bonus to the result of the die rolled. However, the total of the two cannot exceed the maximum possible value of a die. For example, if you have a +4 capped bonus and roll an 18 on a d20, the final number caps at 20.
Right.
Also, capped bonuses do not prevent automatic failure, so if you've got it and you roll a 1, you still botch. When the roll at hand succeeds automatically on a 20 on the die or yields special results when the number rolled reaches a certain threshold, the capped bonus doesn't trigger those effects. Or when the roll at hand requires you to roll several dice, as in the case of damage or rolls with advantage or disadvantage, the capped bonus can only apply to the result of 1 dice. I know that there's always been an issue of stacking bonuses in these kind of games. I feel like this is a answer to that. You get this bonus, but you're not getting it higher than the dice.
Right.
On the other hand, we also have optional rules for critical effects on magic. So the grit option is critical failure, and depending on the saving throw, might cause some effects. With strength, you're paralyzed for 1 round. With dexterity, you fall prone. With constitution, you're poisoned for 1d4 rounds. With intelligence, you are stunned for 1 round. With Wisdom, uh, the spell's caster dictates your next action, choosing one of the following: dash, disengage, dodge, help, hide, or search. This action can be objectively useless, but it cannot directly expose you to danger. Like dashing can expose you to opportunity attacks, but it cannot make you run off a cliff.
Right.
And Charisma, you lose your confidence and you are frightened for 1d4 rounds. Uh, on the other hand, on critical successes, which is more of an epic rule, let's see. Strength, on your next turn, you get an extra attack and your speed is doubled.
Holy shit.
Dexterity, if the spell's damage would normally be cut in half, you take no damage. In addition, you can take the dash or dodge action as a bonus action on your next turn. Constitution, you gain a number of temp HP equal to twice the level of the spell you resisted. Intelligence, you have advantage on your next saving throw against an effect produced by the caster within the next minute. Wisdom, you can use the help or ready action as a bonus action on your next turn. And Charisma, you can use help or incite as a bonus action on your next turn.
I feel the strength one is kinda overpowered, but I don't think there are many spells that have you make strength saves.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's just your opponent makes a strength or dexterity save and they have to choose it.
Mm-hmm. But we also have an intrigue tag on the mark of cantrips. Which is going into some expanded uses with cantrips.
Right.
Now, if you make use of cantrips, can be cast at will and at a moment's notice. So many awakened make ample use of these powers, which grow as the adventurer gains experience. Their cantrips become an extension of themselves, a part of their identity. If you make use of this optional rule, the bond will subtly alter the character's essence, changing minor aspects of their appearance and environment. By default, this rule applies solely to cantrips, but it can extend to all spells of unlimited use. Certain species have an innate mastery of one or several spells that can be cast at will. Through their Eldritch Invocation, warlocks have access to higher level unlimited use spells. Ascendant Step, for example, lets the character cast Levitate at will. The changes brought by the intense use of these cantrips can take many shapes. Gradually, their imprint influences the deep nature of the caster. The unseen, their personality traits, ideals, etc. Just like the Awakened brings forth something that yet had no existence, these unseen powers end up becoming apparent to the eyes of all. Up to 11th level, these alterations can only be spotted by attentive observer. Beyond this level, they become increasingly obvious. If your leader makes use of this rule, you can pick one of the transformations from the table below, or just roll d8. So for example, we have Reflection and Mirrors. The reflection has a different color, texture, or aspect. It can appear blurry or move out of sync with you. Shadow. Your shadow takes on a different shape, shifts abnormally, or has an anomalous shade. Reaction to light. Your skin, hair, or eyes reflect light strangely. They may appear luminescent, or on the contrary, merge with the darkness. Voice. Your voice changes gradually, becoming higher or lower pitched, distorted, or ringing with echoes. Imagine somebody rolled voice and the GM says, "Congratulations, your voice now sounds like auto-tune."
I mean, it could work if you're playing like online,
Hmm.
and then they just put out an auto tune and speak
Yeah.
like that every time their character speaks.
Hmm. Uh, or a rule of if you speak loudly at all, no matter where you are, your voice echoes like you're in a valley.
Or having the voice of a late stage smoker.
Hmm. Uh, I forget the gas, but there is a gas that acts like the opposite of helium, where you suck it in, your voice goes at a lower pitch for a while. But see
Huh.
then, colors. The character's irises, hair, lips, skin, or nails take on uncommon, if downright extravagant hues. Why stick with one? Why not have the equivalent of a horse of a different color with someone's hair? Let's see, marks, signs, and shapes appear on the skin, perhaps reminiscent of tattoos. Almost, you're gonna see plenty of sorcerers who are tattooed, anyways. Then time. When the awakened remains in place over an extended period, time appears to flow differently in a radius depending on their power, about 3 times the character's level in feet. Cut flowers remain fresh longer, or on the contrary, wither more quickly. Dust gathers more slowly or rapidly. Glass dulls or takes on a new sheen. Uh,
So basically, all these transformations remind me of Fable.
mm,
Like when you level up a certain attribute higher than the others, and then it starts reflecting on your character.
mm-hmm. uh, I could certainly see it. And nature. When the awakened remains in place over an extended period, at least a month, nature seems influenced by their aura in a radius depending on their power, about 300 feet per level. For whatever reason, I have this image of a very powerful druid for whom, when they are when they're at a farming village, the crops yield triples.
Yeah, it would make sense.
Mm-hmm. Uh, you can hide transformations. Uh, you can expend a first level spell slot to repress all transformations for 24 hours. And we also have discerning cantrips through transformations. When a spellcaster's appearance begins being altered by their use of cantrips, a trained observer can guess what these cantrips are from an analysis of the resulting anomalies. Of course, this can only be done if the transformations are actually discernible. Someone proficient in Arcana can, after 10 minutes of observation, make a DC 15 Arcana check to identify one of the target's known cantrips. After this, the observer can keep spying on the spellcaster to identify more of their known cantrips, with one check every 10 minutes. Every successful check identifies another cantrip.
Which cantrip will make your voice sound like autotune?
Um, I'd imagine any cantrip that does thunder damage might do that. Uh, or maybe if you cast Shocking Grasp one too many times.
Shocking.
Uh, in fact, I'm gonna look at the cantrip list and come up with some dumb ideas.
I feel like if you use far too many times Shocking Grasp, I can imagine whenever you try to shake hands to
Hmm.
someone, their hairs just get up from static.
Yeah. Or I could see if someone casts say Chill Touch and then you shake their hand, it's like you put your hand on ice you got right out of the freezer.
It's really
Or
neat.
if someone casts Mage Hand, everyone around you feels like you are touching them somewhere, even though you're not. Uh, or imagine what sort of ridiculous transformations you could get if somebody was casting Vicious Mockery too much.
Tourette syndrome.
Uh, uh, I would say either that or at random times it's people get the wrong message from whatever you're saying.
Or every now and then, whenever you try to speak, you let an insult hidden in Shakespearean voice.
What, like someone's perfectly capable of meeting my expectations.
Yes.
Uh, I could go with that. Then we have Back from the Dead. There's where we're going into a few rules with bringing people to life if you want to go that route. Just to add a few bits to things like raise dead, or reincarnate, or
Right.
resurrection, or revivify, or true resurrection. First is the Fateforge. If you choose this option, only the chosen ones of the Fateforge may be brought back to life. A retired hero who is now enjoying a relaxed life of happiness can no longer be considered a fate chosen, no matter the exploits they performed in the past. However, dramatic events can take them back to the path of greatness. Likewise, a simple denizen of Aeana who takes their fate into their hands can rise to the status of fate chosen. This is a tag using the mystery setup.
Nice.
On the other hand, we have the Gias, which is using the intrigue tag. Following this optional rule, the cleric's divinity will only condescend to bring a character back to life in exchange for a service whose importance and duration will depend on the level of the spell used. The deceased character is free to refuse this arrangement, in which case they are not brought back to life, and neither the spell slot nor the material components are expended. However, the spellcaster must still have spent the required casting time. If the deceased character accepts to be brought back to life following these conditions, they are considered to be under the effect of a Gias spell, except that no magic can dissipate its effects and nothing can prevent the psychic damage resulting from misbehavior. The duration of the Gias is 10 days for a 3rd or 4th level spell, such as Revivify, 30 days for a 5th or 6th level spell, like Raise Dead or Reincarnate, and 1 year for a 7th or 8th level spell, like Resurrection, and permanent for a 9th level spell, True Resurrection. Of course, the mission must be in line with the divinity's interest and make sense in regard to what it may expect from a servant of the resurrected character's level. If the god's precepts match those of the character, this may be bearable, but such a burden can quickly become crushing should moral conflicts arise. Several approaches may be used to determine the details of the quest. The leader can directly impart the divine command to the player, the latter being free to accept or refuse. This can also take the form of a transaction between the character and the god, or one of its emissaries, depending on the spell's level. In such conditions, the character can even make counterproposals, leading to negotiations that go on until an agreement has been reached, or until it is concluded that no common ground can be found. Such a talk takes place when the creature is about to be brought back to life, that is, at the end of the casting time. Imagine using this on, say, a thief, and now he's told, you have to unsteal from all the places that you stole from.
Nah, man, just put me in the freezer.
And if you want a darker option, we have Fooling the Gods. You can attempt to bring a person back to the land of the living without the approval of the gods. If you elect to do so, the spell's casting is corrupted, but doesn't result in a Gias-like effect. If the beneficiary accepts coming back to life, It takes 1 temporary corruption point per level of the spell used and must make a DC 15 Wisdom save or suffer an indefinite madness. In addition, the spellcaster must take a DC 15 Arcana check. A failure means that the Angels of Death have noticed the perfidy and henceforth see you and the spell's beneficiary as felons to be brought down. Depending on how potentially dangerous you are, more or less powerful Celestials may be missioned to take you down. In addition, you are likely to lose your magical abilities. However, as obvious as it may seem, this is surprisingly not always the case. There are historical examples of heretics or apostates who retained their powers even as they rebelled against their god.
Because they took another god then?
Maybe. I think it'd be very amusing of if one god lets you resurrect, but another one is pissed off about it and sends Celestials anyways.
Friendship ended with Bahamut. Now Tiamat is my friend.
Also, it probably wouldn't be able to happen, but there is a small part of me that's thinking with the whole Gias rule of resurrecting the big bad and with a true resurrection and telling him you have to be a good person.
Then they go nah, and they do every single thing again.
They go nah, end up taking psychic damage until they end up dying again. And on the other hand, if you want the gritty approach, there is End of the Line. One cannot be resurrected over and over. It is not known whether death itself is responsible for this or abstract, merciless divine entity is in charge, but a thoroughly exact account of resurrections is kept. As far as resurrection is concerned, no creature can be the beneficiary of more spell levels than its own level. As such, characters with a level below 3 cannot be brought back to life under any conditions. Likewise, Raise Dead cannot be used on a 4th level character, and a 20th level character who has already been the beneficiary of 1 Revivify, 2 Raise Dead, and 1 Resurrection, for a total of 3 plus 10 plus 7 equals 20 spell levels, is out of second chances. In the case of a creature without class levels, a challenge rating is used instead.
Man, how many times do you have to die to actually finish your quest?
Did you ever see Darkness Rising? And how the bard got killed like 50 times? Eventually, I find these kind of things more interesting than, say, you resurrect, but you permanently lose 1 level. That was a thing. I don't miss it.
Oh. Wow.
But the person in that one, for the longest time, he only played fighters, and then he decides to play a bard for that campaign, saying, "How different can they be?" And the GM just says nothing for like 5 seconds before moving right along. Like, saying that is almost as bad as saying, "What's the worst that could happen?" Because inevitably, well, it will.
Or your DM going, "Are you really sure you want to do that?"
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll say that just to throw people off. But we do have a epic tag with modifying spells. You can, as a leader, allow ad hoc spell modifications and incorporate the discovery of rare variants of otherwise well-known effects. Basically, breaking away a little bit from Fire and Forget.
Right.
So, first we have substituting or adding components. The components of a spell metaphorically represent one of its aspects. In the course of history, awakened from different civilizations have grown accustomed to using different material components for their spells, resulting in habits that took root. It is usually feasible to replace a spell component with another, though changing a rote spell is neither easy nor quick. Moreover, it is possible to add components, material or otherwise, to a spell to alter its effects. However, this can be risky and costly. And we have spell
Imagine
alter.
replacing an item for Ray of Enfeeblement, and then you cast it, and then you have explosive diarrhea as a side effect.
uh, but with spell alterations, it may be that a spellcaster knows a spell almost perfectly suited to a problem, but of which certain factors are useless, counterproductive, or insufficient. Changing a few details can then appear as the ideal solution, and adding extra components can be the means to such an end. Through this optional rule, spellcasters will be able to adapt to a great variety of situations, provided they dedicate enough time and effort to it. And this is with a new feat called Altered Magic. If you use this rule, only Awakened with the Altered Magic feat can alter spells. You need to be able to cast at least one spell, as well as proficiency in Arcana. You can use the rules on altering spells. If you have sorcery points, one sorcery point can be converted into 2 creation points. You learn one metamagic option of your choice from those accessible to sorcerers. You can power this metamagic option with either sorcery points, if you have any, or creation points. We will get into creation points in a moment. But each extra component adds 1 or more creation points, like right now. Certain alterations are more expensive than others, as detailed below. Adding a component requires no extra action. Once the spell has been cast, the components are expended, destroyed in the case of material components and gems, and any leftover creation points are lost. 4 kinds of extra components are detailed below. Your leader is free to decide that any one of these components is not suited to the spirit of their campaign and veto its use. So with material components, it could be gems. It has to be 50 GP worth of gems per level. So you're not using cubic zircons for this. Hit dice. Self-explanatory there. You get 1 creation point for each hit die expended. Spell slot. If you expend a spell slot whose level is higher than required by the spell, you can convert all or part of these extra levels into creation points. You gain 1 for every extra level. Levels converted in this fashion cannot be used toward the at higher levels option included in the description of certain spells. And the alterations can be metamagic, self-explanatory. In this case, 2 creation points is equal to 1 sorcery point. If an option mentions your charisma modifier, use the spellcasting ability modifier instead. So intelligence, for example, with wizards.
Right.
Then parameter reduction. You can reduce a single numbered parameter of a spell, duration, range, number of hit dice, radius, etc., by as much as you want at the cost of 2 creation points. So you might want to reduce the radius of that fireball in order to avoid catching allies in the explosion, as an example. Or
Right.
reducing the DC required to interrupt a spell with the use of counterspell cannot be considered a viable application. Makes sense. That would make counterspell way too easy, way too useful. But then we have a few other variations, and these ones are more of a guideline to just little tweaks to the spell. For example, a minor variation might be the weapon targeted by your magic weapon emits a weak blue glow. Your fireball also destroys fragile objects that are being worn or carried.
Okay, I know which one I'm gonna use.
Yep, that's for 1 point. A significant variation is 3 points. Things like your lightning bolt does not ignite flammable objects in its area of effect. Your mage armor has the appearance of mithril chainmail. Your fireball leaves no trace, no visible scorching marks, and no persistent aura. Or creatures killed by your cone of cold do not thaw naturally. Or major variations, which cost 5 points. You can alter your fireball into a frostball, dealing cold damage.
So he
Uh,
basically becomes Sub-Zero.
mm, um, when charm person ends, the creature is not aware that it has been charmed. Or a humanoid killed by your finger of death rises as a ghoul instead of as a zombie. Uh, one of the other minor variations I like is the target of your hideous laughter laughs noiselessly. But these are meant to encourage narrative liberty and dramatic tension. Take care that they are not exploited to create blatant unbalances. In particular, certain
Yeah, because
variations should not be authorized.
like stuff from the minor variations, like Acid Arrow looking like a regular arrow,
Mhm.
it's really neat.
Oh yeah. Oh, I could see somebody using a like a wall of stone spell to create or a wall of ice to create one giant middle finger. Uh, I know that I've messed around with those sort of spells to launch somebody by creating a giant fist that just launches them straight up in the air. Uh, or I think there was one instance where where the magic missiles looked like bullet bills. But and we also have adapting a spell to a ritual. The power of rituals lies in making it possible to cast a spell uh, without expending a spell slot. Adding the ritual tag does not mean that it'll have to alter its nature and the use spellcasters make of it. Implementing this rule does not mean that all spells can be cast as rituals, or even that certain spells are available as rituals to all spellcasters. And there are a few characteristic changes that can happen. One is dramatic conditions. Being able to adapt the spell into a ritual is subject to a dramatic condition. When this condition is resolved, such as when the temporary blessing ends or the sanctuary is destroyed, the spell can no longer be cast as a ritual. Whether the discovery of a new ritual is a momentary or permanent boon, it provides material for new and memorable situations. And it gives a few examples. Uh, like a I like the magic item one they have here. An object of arcane power or a sacred relic lets its wielder cast certain spells as rituals. But we also have a few. If you want to take the a epic tag, we have new reactions related to magic, such as using a reaction to identify a spell. Oh, this is done as an Arcana check. Or Human Shield. If you have grappled a creature when a spell or power with an area of effect is about to hit you, you can use your reaction to shield yourself with the creature, or on the contrary, shield it with your body, in which case you act as the human shield. Oh. That would be a good way to use minions when the dragon starts throwing breath weapon.
Yeah.
But or heroic rescue, where a creature willingly acting as a human shield can take any damage the protected creature should have suffered, as long as it doesn't bring you below 0. But then we get to Awakening, which Fateforge makes a big deal about how if you're able to use magic, you're considered awakened, and sometimes that might not even happen at character creation. But the ways that you could awaken might be a dramatic scene, following one's convictions or faith, gaining a level, or being at or after near-death experiences. But on the on the other hand, we do have the option under Fate's Aegis, where dormant characters are granted special advantages which they receive from the Fateforge. Which we've already covered what the Fateforge is.
Yeah, the first book.
Mm-hmm. But for example, effects can be awakened class or species feature is compensated by entrusting yourself to fate a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. You regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. If you're blocked off from cantrips, the compensation is whenever you drop to 0 hit points, you automatically become stable. Or spells of first level or higher. When you suffer damage, you can use your reaction to gain resistance against this damage. You can do this a number of times equal to your number of spell slots, regaining them when you finish a long rest. And entrusting oneself to fate, as a bonus action, you can call upon the unseen powers that have been guiding you since you became an adventurer. The leader can either describe an unexpected event that protects you or drives you onward. And some of these manifestations of fate are really damn busted. So it's a D8 roll. 1, nothing happens. 2, you have advantage on a roll of your choice that you make. 3, you can use dash, disengage, or dodge at no cost. Not even a bonus action, you can just use those for free. 4, you can take an additional action. 5, all your successful attacks are resolved as critical hits. I don't think this means you auto hit. It means if you attack and hit, you roll it, you do additional damage as if you crit. 6, you're considered to have 3/4 cover until the start of your next turn. 7, you cannot be targeted by hostile actions until the start of your next turn. 8, you have resistance to all types of damage until the start of your next turn. When we looked at the whole Awaken thing and the fact that you could take a casting class without being awakened, I was like, okay, how is that going to work so you're not dead weight?
There's the answer.
Yeah. imagine giving 5 to a fighter who has multiple attacks already. And then let that fighter take action surge. You want to make a one-man shit wrecker? That's one way to do it. But we do have an optional rule for degrees of awakening. The lowest possible degree would be 0, which would be a dormant. And there are 3 potential degrees of awakening. If you wish, of course, we also have the rule about starting a class without awakened features.
Right.
And they do go into it with the different, with some of the different classes, and how they could, like with barbarian, rogue, fighter, and scholar, and how they could potentially awaken. If you want to take the darker route, you have the option of losing one's awakening. Where it just goes back to the 0th degree of awakening and becomes dormant. In addition, you take 3 levels of exhaustion, just like in the case of a dormant character seeking to awaken. There is no infallible way of getting back one's lost awakening. This may occur as an epiphany during an intense scene or particular event, depending on what the leader has planned. or Fate's Punishment, where where the status of those who have lost their awakening bars them from being under Fate's aegis. So I like that there is an explanation for those cases where, say, a barbarian suddenly is using magic. It's like, oh, now we know why. It's not a case of, oh, I just happened to take a level between the sessions. We have an in-universe reason on how they might get magic. And I've always preferred the idea that potentially anyone can use magic. It's just, do you have a certain it factor in order to pursue it? Oh. But then we have geomagic. Oh. Which is meant to be a phenomena that can happen in certain areas. Oh. Geomancers have classified levels of magical intensity in 3 categories. Weak magic, where the intensity of magic is reduced. Strong magic, where it's dense and abundant. And neutral magic, where it's in balance. Entropic regions are a particular case. In such areas, the strength of the weave fluctuates, sometimes abruptly from one day to the next. Another field deals with geomagical phenomena. Such alterations in the expression of magic typically appear in areas of weak or strong magic. By default, neutral magic is the state in which the rules of using magic and the effects of spells apply normally with no adjustment. We have perceiving magical fluctuations. If you're proficient in Arcana, you can sense when you're in a location with anomalous magical intensity. Nature or religion can be used instead, but with a +5 to the DC of the check. You can either feel the change, i.e., become aware of the shift, which is a DC 15 intelligence Arcana check, or predicting a change, i.e., forecasting what the shift is going to be. And depending on how long in advance you're trying to forecast, that determines the DC of the check, as well as how much time you have to study it. It could be a day in advance, you're studying an hour, DC 10. If it's beyond a year, you'd have to study for a month, and the DC is 30. It is basically doing a forecast. So imagine a magic equivalent of a weatherman. But we also have a bit on the flow of magic, as well as defining the density of magic and these kind of phenomena. As well as a entropic region. Like as mentioned before, these are regions where it's not strong, neutral, or weak, but it jumps around. How big of a region is entropic varies. It could be a single region, or it could be hundreds of miles. But in order to determine what the shift is going to be, you'd roll a d20 and check whether the area was magically neutral, weak, or strong to see what happens. So this could turn neutral to weak, or vice versa. Of course, no matter what, if you roll a 3 through 18, nothing happens. So most of the time, this isn't going to affect things, but sometimes it might. Let's see, weak magic. Magical currents are faint, and the use of magic is complicated by a loss of power, or by the addition of undesirable effects. The region is under one of the following effects, which the leader can either choose as they see fit, or roll randomly on the table. On the other hand, strong magic can have other effects. And then we have a catalog of these phenomena. And I know there'd be a question, what about the effects of neutral? If the area is neutral, then it's just normal magic.
Right. I like it.
Mm-hmm. Uh, but with when it comes to spell slots and innate spells, uh, those are regarding geomagic related rules. Innate spells are considered to be cast with a spell slot of the lowest possible level unless otherwise specified. Whereas we also have Arcane Abundance as an optional rule. This is a consequence of the density of magical currents. This type of strong magic is common in the Aeolian Isles and the Phalanx. Its origins seem to be from some resilient, vital force, as if Aeana had reacted to a wound, fighting to recover it with an overabundance of energy.
Somehow, when you said resilient, for some reason my brain just heard Brazilian.
That is a you problem. But the effect of Arcane Abundance is that spells can be cast with a spell slot one level below what is normally required. First level spells become cantrips and can be cast at will, and all awakened creatures can cast cantrips, even if they are normally not capable of doing so. Such creatures
Oh, that's
temporarily
really
know a
neat.
number of cantrips equal to their proficiency bonus. Known cantrips are determined by rolling on the following table. Roll again in case of duplicates. So, at complete random, somebody who is awakened but isn't a caster could know Dancing Lights, Druidcraft, Firebolt, Light, Mage Hand, Message, Minor Illusion, Poison Spray, Prestidigitation, Ray of Frost, Shocking Grasp, or Thaumaturgy.
I can already imagine the barbarian in the group suddenly learning shocking grasp and
Mhm.
using it to handshake people.
Yep. We have an opposite in the form of Arcane Aridity. This is an example of a weak magic area.
Right.
Oh. And it affects the recovery of spell slots, making it necessary to take several long rests in a row to replenish higher level slots. One long rest replenishes first level slots, a second one replenishes second level slots, and so on. For this slow recovery to be effective, you must not expend any spell slots between your long rests. Otherwise, your spell slot recovery starts from first level again on your next long rest. Which that has the gritty tag, and yeah, that certainly fits. Oh. On the other hand, you have the arcane deficiency rule, where magic feels fragile and brittle. It's difficult to establish and maintain a connection with geomagical currents, which are normally elusive and fickle. It means that spells must be cast with a spell slot one level higher than normal. Cantrips have to be cast at first level, second level at third, and so on. You do not get the
So,
higher levels option in doing this.
right, and you can't cast 9th level spells then.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that
Oh,
absolutely just locks you out of your best spells.
yep. It also means that uh, first level spell slots expanded to cast a cantrip are regained with a short rest. As a bonus action, you can expend 2 first level slots to regain 1 second level.
Right.
Mhm. On the other hand, we have Arcane Sanctification. Basically a faith-based effect. Even if there
Right.
has never been a cleric to cast it, the location is under an effect similar to a Hallow spell, which covers the area circumscribed by the place's main building, walls, or ramparts. By virtue of their fervor, the locals unwittingly contribute to spreading and maintaining the effect. Celestials, elementals, fae, fiends, and undead can't enter the area, nor can such creatures charm, frighten, or possess creatures within it. Any creature charmed, frightened, or possessed by such a creature is no longer under that effect upon entering the area. The restriction doesn't apply to creatures revered by the faithful, such as devas in the service of the worshipped divinity. In addition to this basic effect, additional ones may manifest. In this case, roll one or several times on the table below and apply the effect as described. So it could be something like non-detection, where nothing within the area can be divined or scryed, or things like everlasting rest, where dead bodies interred in the area can't be made into undead. We also have burning sap, which is an effect that can happen at random, where the bond between life and magic is tighter, and that to the point where sap becomes indispensable for every spell. Basically, vegetable life can become. Casting a spell consumes a number of square feet of vegetation equal to 10 times the spell slot used. Certain druids or rangers can use part of their own life but spare the environment. If you cast a cantrip using this rule, you take 1 force damage, and spells from 1st to 9th level inflict 1d4 force damage per level. And there's also the option of making it so that you can't cast spells whose effect summons plants or affects plants.
What?
Optionally, they could be used, like... but considered corrupt when cast in a region.
Oh.
Then we have dampening, which any spell with variable damage acts as if you rolled the lowest result. Ouch. That means that fireball spell is only doing 8 damage. Or dead magic, where it's basically an anti-magic field with a few differences. It is unsettling to magical creatures who have to do a Constitution save to enter, or take exhaustion and be unnerved for the day. And as long as you're in the area, magic items lose properties, with the exception of charms. If a item is left in this kind of area for more than a month, it may require a few days or weeks to recover its properties, or even lose them completely. And no feature that requires being awakened can be used.
Oh, wow.
We also have a mystery option called Zonim's Glyph, which basically generates a localized version of dead magic around boundaries such as a city's walls in the surrounding 15 feet, a single room or cell, or the entire length of a sewage pipe. If you destroy the glyph, you remove the dead magic area. For the next D10 days, it's replaced with another weak magic effect, and then after that, the currents return to normal. There's also endosmosis, where when you cast a spell, you have to do a saving throw with your spellcasting ability of 8 plus the level of the spell slot used. If you fail, you take force damage equal to 1d4 plus 1d6 per spell level.
Man, it's
Psych Urge
brutal.
sorcerers have advantage on this saving throw. But there's also things like Ethereal Border, where you can't divine, and you have a wall in the ethereal plane, so you can't use things like Etherealness or Misty Step. Ghosts can't cross an ethereal border. but if the ethereal border is in the astral plane, or the use of teleportation or teleportation circle, that can still be done. There's also the Gateway of the Dead. Oh, that's going to be
Oh,
interesting.
that sounds very tame.
Yep. Where... Well, one of them is the adventurer's shadows animate and attack them as shadows. Basic... Or... Gigantism. It is short-lived, but it affects the growth of fast-growing life forms like fungi, arthropods, and amphibians. However, some regions can experience more prolonged exposure to gigantism, sometimes for centuries, to the point where everything there becomes huge. You know those fairy tales where everything is way bigger than it's supposed to be, or like the Giga House episode of Digimon back in the day. That's the vibe I get with this. Oh, where gigantism applies to all living things, be they mammals, insects, or plants. After 1 month in these areas, any creature of normal size is considered to be under an enlarged spell, with the exception of that everything it is wearing and carrying doesn't change size with it. The effects fade gradually upon leaving the affected area, and a creature goes back to its initial size after a duration equal to the time spent in the area. The range and area of effect of all spells are also doubled. Like, giant trees we can handle. Giant mushrooms we can handle. But whenever you're in those areas, I always have to remind people, imagine how big the bugs are. And see, then we
imagine a giant. What was it called? Hold on, let me check the name. Imagine a giant mantis shrimp. I wouldn't want to deal with that.
That is terrifying. The mantis shrimps are already assholes enough with all the punching.
Yeah.
But then Melosas, which are usually related to Feylands. This is an area that has a kind of primeval consciousness that can influence the area around it. Druids and rangers can pray to a Melosa to ask for guidance. You have to be able to speak Sylvan or Primordial to do it. And you probably have to make a nature or religion check with a DC of 15. If you do, you get the following effects. Local terrain is never considered difficult. Your speed is doubled. All types of speed. You have advantage against saving throws. Oh, hold on a moment.
Yeah, no worries.
The party's guide, the one who sent the prayer, can use certain spells, even if they haven't awakened. And the Melosa can send signs and communicate through symbols or objects left by animals. And there are certain spells you get from the Melosa at will, 3 times a day each, and once a day each. And we have other ones like Melancholy and Chaos, basically demonic chaos magic that might accidentally summon demons when you cast spells. The Psychic Wall, where if you try to cast a spell, you have to pass an Arcana check to overcome the wall. If you fail that check, the spell isn't cast. And if there is some sort of great disturbance, it can crack the psychic wall and reduce its DC or even shatter it. The difficulty of this depends on the amount of people there. Then we also have temporal distortion, where your um you have to make an intelligence check to not lose track of time. On a failure, the GM rolls a d4 to determine how you experience the passing of time while you're there. This also fucks around with the duration of magic. Like, all spells with the duration other than instantaneous become permanent. You don't need to concentrate on them. As long as the spell's in effect, you can't recover the spell slot. Spells whose effects end when the target makes a successful save, that works normally. If you leave the temporal distortion area, the spell ends. And to end a spell, you have to cast Dispel Magic. Although, if you want to make it even worse, you could have it that doing a long rest in a temporal distortion area could create magical overdose. The more times you fail, each time you do a long rest and fail the saving throw, you could be disoriented, or at worst, suffer short-term madness. Or things, and of course, the last of these geomantic effects we have is Thaumaturgic Halo, which, in this kind of area, full darkness never occurs unless it's magical. The area is always constantly in low light. You can capture one of the lights of this halo to regain spell slots.
Takes 1d10 minutes. That's real neat.
Yep, once you've found it, you must grasp it delicately. It's a acrobatics check. Then you roll 1d6, the result of the total spell slots you recover. So if you roll a 5, you can recover 2 first-level spell slots and 1 third-level spell slot. If you do this more than once, you develop a physical addiction to the magic that pervades the location. Upon leaving the area, you have to make a DC 17 con save, or you feel ill and nauseous. Halo sickness causes 1 level of exhaustion and inflicts poison on for a number of days equal to 17 minus the result of the save.
Oh. That would be a bad idea, a bad moment to get a 1.
We also have rules for madness, such as saving throws against horrors. If you manage to succeed it, you could be under the effect of adrenaline, which means you are, for 1d10 minutes, you're immune to being charmed or frightened. On the other end, if you fail, you're going to be rolling on the madness tables. And if you want to make it even darker, some madness can inflict corruption.
Oh.
And the types of madness are short term, last 1d10 minutes, long term, last 1d10 times 10 hours.
And then indefinite madness.
Yep. And of course, you could deal with suggestions of madness during play. There are ways, of course, to cure it, either during adventuring or using magic. And then we get to corruption.
Ooh.
So, corruption can be temporary, it can be permanent. There are ways to curify it. Curify, what the hell am I saying? But, as well as different forms of how the canker appears, depending on what sort of tone you want to go for, which is nice. as well as how to portray it at higher levels. Oh, the connection between Fateforge and Canker, as well as the relation between Canker and Nightmare.
Ooh.
And if you suffer cankering over months or even years, you turn into a reprobate. Essentially, this sort of corruption is like chaos corruption, just turning you into a chaos spawn. But the approach is you have a set of circles that you either fill in or tick, depending on whether it's permanent or temporary, going from the
Right.
stages of minor, serious, severe, critical, and when all are ticked or filled, you undergo metamorphosis. At which point, you no longer have that character.
You just roll a new one?
Mm-hmm.
I see.
And we have the potential sources, the option to accept it or being tainted. Of course, madness can do so. There's the whole thing with ghouls. Casting a corrupt spell will inflict it. Of course, though there are of course exceptions. And you can choose to assimilate a corrupt spell. This can be done in any circumstance as long as the caster can dedicate at least a few minutes of rest to focusing this change. At which point you take 1 permanent corruption point. You always have the spell prepared. It doesn't count against the number of spells you can prepare each day. And you no longer take saving throws against corruption while casting the spell. If you cast a corrupt spell, you have to do a saving throw against your spellcasting ability with a DC of 10 plus the level of the spell slot used, or take 1 temporary corruption. On the other hand, having corruption points permanent can allow you to have access to certain feats, like Abominable Flesh, where you I think it says it does exactly what it says on the tin. Also shows the effects of temporary corruption, of permanent corruption, and it is not nice.
It is, as we call it, no bueno.
Mm-hmm. And it can still tempt with the ability to grant spells, which we kind of saw.
Right.
And the further you go on that route, you could get more. You could get stronger effects, but also go much further down. And I do like that there's a wide. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there's a wide variety of effects of corruption in this sense.
Yeah.
You could, as far as purifying it, it could be purified through a sanctuary, just over time in a soothing location, through faith or art-based meditation, a heroic epiphany, which is an additional to the critical optional rule, or if you roll a natural 20 on a meditation check, you lose 1d4 temporary corruption instead of 1. There's also a purifying mediation feat if you want to double down on this even further. But the thing is, this only removes temporary corruption. Permanent corruption, there is no way back from that. On the On the other hand, you could use Wish to remove. Wish is the one way you could directly remove permanent corruption points, but I like that if you want to recover from corruption, you have got to put in the damn work.
Oh yeah.
But the remaining bit just covers the spell compendium, and I do want to touch on the locks. So the magic lock, there are certain spells that are off the table depending on geomantics. For example, spells
Right.
linked to other planes of existence. Such spells consist of recalling a soul long departed in order to resurrect the individual, or of summoning creatures from other planes. This affects conjuration spells in particular, but the spells of schools of abjuration and divination are also concerned. Spells related to gravity cannot be cast in areas of weak magic. Conversely, you feel light if downright buoyant in areas of strong magic. And powerful illusions and polymorph spells that modify the structure of an individual require great expenditures of energy. Spells preceded by a magic lock are unusable in areas of weak magic. And if they want to be even more restrictive, they could decide that magic lock related spells can only be cast in areas of strong magic, or even that are not available at all. Of course, mind lock. If the spell has mind lock and the GM wants to focus on intrigue and mystery with no shortcuts, they can just restrict those spells to only be cast in strong magic areas, or even remove them.
Right.
With life lock, healing spells are off the table. And with this variant, the at higher levels option is not available for healing spells. You could also restrict access to these spells or make them unavailable completely. And of course, corruption, inflicts corruption when you try and cast them. There's also the possibility of increased power.
Right.
Where certain spells have no additional effects when cast with a higher level spell slot. If you want to expand the possibilities of spellcasters, you can use the additional options signaled by the action icon next to the at higher levels mention. The same goes for some cantrips that normally develop no additional effects as you gain levels. This proposes an alternative. So those cantrips that are static, you have a way to boost them here.
Nice.
And there are a few spells that are specific to the setting that can be authorized on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
But as I mentioned, those ones we're not going into.
Right.
And divination ritual allows the ritual tag to certain spells of the School of Divination, making it possible to cast them as rituals. Each one has a bit of an aside. But I want to see if I can find one for that. And I will note when it comes to the spells themselves, first off, I enjoy the visual style, and second, I like the symbol-based approach that we have here.
It makes it faster to identify.
Like the first one indicates the school.
The school.
Second one indicates a tag.
Yeah.
And
the third one might be for another tag as well.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, it pretty much is. So the second and third one are for specific tags. Like Aura of Duplicity has the mystery lock and has the tag indicating that this is a spell exclusive to Ayana.
Ayana, yeah.
But and obviously the rest of it is dedicated to just these spells. So before we wrap up, what did you
Yes.
think of the Grimoire, just in terms of what it's adding to the magic system?
That it makes it much more dynamic. I really like it. I love that the whole all the magic is actually alive, like you can actually see it.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that the cantrips, as you keep using them, can shape you as well. That's a really neat detail. What
Mm-hmm.
else? For a for a fantasy setting, having the whole geomagic thing is really neat because lore wise it just expands on how the world is built, and then you can use that like on a mechanical level, on mechanics of the
Mm-hmm.
game. Because I don't know, say for D&D you have, oh, this place is full of magic, oh, this place is really strongly attuned to this kind of magic, and then nothing happens ever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really neat detail.
It's a neat
Let's
detail,
see.
and
Oh, no, go on,
uh,
go on.
all of this is pretty much answering the question. Helps answer the question of how magic works in this world.
Yes, like it's really neat. Like
Mm-hmm.
it makes feel the world like the world relies on magic to actually function, or at least to explain why it is the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
What else? The madness and corruptions mechanics are really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I also really liked the modifying spells and the altering of it because it helps you give the same spell a slightly better, sometimes a slightly better flavor, and other times it makes them much more versatile.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the new tags, the locks are really cool to adapt it to your game style. That's
Mm-hmm.
incredible. I wish more did that, honestly. And again, we all just go back to the whole modularity of the system. These things are possible because of the modularity of the system, and it shows that they really went all in on developing the world. And also, like, the world is very well expanded, and at the same time you have the choice to fit it to your liking. So that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You rarely see that.
Oh yeah, and like I said, when I know that's it might be very tempting to look at some of this and say it's analogous to the way the winds of magic work in 40k.
In Warhammer. Yeah.
Not 40k in Warhammer
Yeah,
Fantasy,
fantasy. Yeah.
but even then, the amount of detail it went into as far as the strength of the winds is never it's never gone into, much in the same way that the idea of high magic, which uses all 8 winds, is it may have gone into in certain expansions, but I don't feel like digging that deep.
Yeah. Like this is all just from the entry level. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is one of the first three main one of no, not the three main books, but like one of the main books.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that they go from the get go and it's not just an afterthought, it's really neat.
Oh yeah, and when it comes when it comes to the thing that really helps this is how light or dark you want the fantasy to be in Ayana is really up to the table
Yeah.
because of the tag system.
Yeah, that is no doubt the strongest point of Fateforge.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Now, with that said, when we come back next week, because of the 3-in-1 rule, we will not be continuing with Fateforge, but we are at the halfway point.
We can finish. Which one was the last one that Dungeoneers? I think it was that we couldn't cover last
Yeah.
time.
I've moved Dungeoneers elsewhere. I've got a couple of
Nice.
things we'll be covering next week. There are 2 lighter games that we'll be covering next week. One of them I've interviewed the dev for, and the other one I haven't. So,
Right. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. The other day was really bored, and I decided to play Rogue Fist with a couple of friends.
mm-hmm.
When we were half drunk, and it was absolutely cathartic. I loved it.
uh, glad I could help. I did say that was an ideal beer and pretzels game, so playing it half
Yeah.
drunk would certainly be applicable. But we'll be covering My Father's Sword and Overwar: The Night Comes Down. The latter of which is, if the name wasn't giving it away, is very much channeling Ogre Battle.
Yeah.
So that'll be a fun thing to delve into. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.